ladies and gentlemen. We are here today to discuss a very important film. It's a debut film by Anup Singh. Anup Singh really don't need any introduction. He's a very exclusive filmmaker and teacher as well. And Anup is in the jury, in our jury, honorable member of the jury, and he had shown his film on Ritik Bhagat yesterday. So I'm sure most of you must have seen the film. So Anup will discuss about the film. And Habibur Rahman Khan is also one of the producers of the film. And Orko Kamal, of course, the famous editor, you know, and Madhuja, she's also a filmmaker and a teacher. So I think better we start with Anup to introduce his film, and maybe he can explain how the project took place. And I'm sure also you have seen two great movies made by him, Kissa and Song of Scorpion. Brilliant film, absolutely brilliant. So Anup, why don't you start?
Gautam, thank you very much. A great pleasure being here with you today. And of course, it's always a joy to be here in Kolkata. Before I say anything about the film, I would like to say that the film would have been impossible without Habibur Rahman Khan. One important thing, and I think it's important for all of us here in Bengal, and I mean both the Bengals, he is also the producer of Ritik Bhagat's ekti, nodir, naam.
Yeah.
And three films of mine, Poddarondir Maji, Moner Manush, Shankruchi.
Oh my God.
There you go.
Thank you.
So we have a very important producer from Bengal here with us. When I first went to him and I requested that he help me make my film, he said yes, just like that. You know? And much later, because I didn't want to ask him then, but much later I asked him, Habib Bhai, why did you say yes so immediately? He said, look, you're a Punjabi. And what do you know about Bengal? What do you know about Bangla? But I see your passion for Ritik Bhagat, and that was obvious. And you have spent almost 6 years trying to make the film. So I said yes, just looking at you. So Habib Bhai, thank you very much for your trust. If I talk a little about the making of Ekti, Nodir, Naam, let me start by saying that, like almost all of us who see Ritik does films for the first time, I felt unnerved. I felt completely disoriented. And there were two reasons for that. One, I am born and brought up in East Africa, in Tanzania. I have lived most of my life outside of India. I came to India only at the age of about 14. Joined the Film Institute. I left when I was 25. So I've been a wanderer. And when I came to Ritik, for the first time I saw his film, I felt I'm at home. Suddenly I felt I'm at home. And why is that? Why did I feel that this man who is such a shatteringly powerful filmmaker, that he makes films that shatter you, that devastate you, why does he make me feel at home? And the reason is this, that generally when we think of stories, as filmmakers, as writers, as painters, whatever, there is something that we miss about the story. And Ritik, for me, was the first one to make it very clear that stories are really about life and death. Stories are really about who speaks and who is silent. Stories are really about whom do we allow to speak, whom do we ignore, and whom do we allow to die. And you will recognize all of these in these themes in the films of Hrithik Roshan. So, when I look at his images and his sound, one of the first things that he does is that he brings things together with a kind of force that you don't expect a story logically, nicely told to have. It is a punch that he punches, not us, and that is very important. He punches the story. He tears his own story apart. And the reason that he does that is because he wants us to see that these stories that we accept so easily, and we call it entertainment, that these stories, in fact, they hold systems of oppression. That there are certain logic built into the story that we accept without question. But these stories, as I said earlier, these are stories that actually hide who is allowed to speak, who is allowed not to speak, who is to die, who is to live. And when I saw these films and I saw what he was doing with his stories, and why he was shattering them, tearing them apart, there was another thing that comes across, and again I think it's very important for us. As a filmmaker, he opened himself out. You will see that in his films, it is not only Hrithik who speaks, but he allows all kinds of voices to become a part of his film. And by that, I don't only mean the great music. I don't only mean the great folk songs. I mean this grand sky that you see in Hrithik films. I mean that the steaming pot of rice in Make It Africa. I mean that the feet of Sita in the desert. And finally, when she enters the water, just her feet and water changes the whole body. Water,
elemental.
very
Elemental.
Very elemental. So here was a filmmaker who opened himself. He allowed us to start speaking. So when we watch his films, we are hearing our voices also. This is not just a master's voice telling us, look, I am telling you this is my belief, and either you follow it or you don't. No. He's telling you, I am one voice amongst you. Let's have a dialogue. Let's speak together. This story is told in one way. Let us make this our story. This story belongs to all of us, and it will become a story if we, you and I, audience, filmmaker, we make it together. He brings us into the story-making process. And in the history, I think, of Indian cinema, there is not another tradition of filmmaking which is more caring, which has more solicitude for us. That is for me the reason why I wanted to pay homage to the cinema of Hrithik Roshan. And I was a young filmmaker. This is my first film. I was a young filmmaker. I wanted to show my gratitude to this man who had given me a home. This man who had shown me something that all other cinema was hiding, the truth about storytelling. And when I started making the film, I wanted to follow a certain tradition, and the tradition was simply this, that if we accept ourselves as a river with topple, in his films we see the river dry, we see the fish crumble dry into the air, but you dig into the desert and it will start again. We have seen civilizations perish, but sometimes it is just enough to make a call. Sometimes it is just to use which you make sound. Bepu. Sometimes it's just enough to use a bepu, and suddenly nature rises again.
Yeah.
that sense of affirmation of life. Many people think Hrithik Das films have a pessimism, that they're sad and they're negative, they show the human soul in a very distorted way. But really his cinema is a cinema of affirmation. That finally, as he says in his film Shubhana Rekha, Charevati, Charevati, move on. No matter what, move on. And that is what I wanted to do with my film and my films. Charevati, Charevati. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anup, for your interpretation, and that's enough to say about ekti nodir. And also, I think Hrithik had a polymorphic vision, which is fascinating, absolutely. Now, Anup bhai, you both have a look. Because you are from Punjab. What do you know about Bengal? You say something about it.
আমি বাংলায় বলছি কারণ একটা সুবিধা হলো পাসপোর্ট ভিসা করে এই পারে এসে বাংলায় বলা যায়, পৃথিবীর আর কোথাও বাংলা বলা যায় তো অনুপ সিং যখন আমার কাছে গেল, ও প্রথম মনে নেই একটা ভুল বলেছে, আমি প্রথমবার রাজি হইনি। রাজি হইনি, কিন্তু আসলে আমি গল্পটা করছি। গল্প করার পরে আমাকে একটা কথা বললো, আমার গল্প শুনে গল্পটা শুনে সিনেমা করার যে গল্পটা বললাম, আমাকে বললো আমি ভাই তোমার নাম তো বুক অফ রিলিজ করে থাকতে হবে। আমি বললাম কেন? কোনো প্রডিউসার এইভাবে কোনোদিন কোনো সিনেমা করে নাই, আমাকে এটা বলতো। আমার ভালো পয়েন্ট তো, আচ্ছা। তারপরে সেকেন্ড আর থার্ড টাইম গেল, মানে হি ওয়াজ পারসুইং। আমি তখন এই সেকেন্ড বা থার্ড টাইম আমি ওকে বললাম ঠিক আছে আমি শুরু করব। আমি এটাও বললাম যে আমি কেন ছবিটা করবো, তুমি একটা পাঞ্জাবি ছেলে, তুমি কি জানো আমাদের বেঙ্গল সমাজে, তুমি কি জানো এই বেঙ্গল সমাজে তোমার যে আর্ট, তোমার যে মানে শ্রদ্ধাবোধ, এই সমস্ত দেখে আমি আমার গুরুর জন্য আমি এটা করতে রাজি। ওইভাবে কিন্তু নেই অফ রিভার শুরু হলো। আর এটা তো প্রায় অর্ধেকটা শরীর তো বাংলাদেশে এসে ও কিছু বিকাশের কিছু নিয়ে করেছিল, সেট কিছু আর্টিস্ট এইসব নিয়ে। তো আমার তো আনন্দই লেগেছে যে তারপরে আমি খালি একটা চিন্তা করতাম যে মানুষের প্রতি মানুষের যে শ্রদ্ধাবোধ কি হতে পারে। কোনো বাঙালি আমাকে কেউ বলে নাই চলো বিকাশের পরে একটা এই ছবি ঋতিকদের হোক, আমাকে কেউ বলে তো বলেছে, সেই জন্য আমি এটা করেছি। তো পরে ভালোই হলো। ঋতিক 1972 সালে বিকাশ শুরু করেছিলেন, 73 রিলিজ হয়েছিল। তারপরে ও গেল, ছবি করলো, ও গেল। আজকে তো আমি এখানে আবার সেই প্রডিউসার হিসেবে আবার এখানে স্থান পেলাম। তার মানে ডিভিডেন্ড পাচ্ছি না তা না। থ্যাংক ইউ।
আমরাও আনন্দিত যে আপনি করেছেন এরকম আমাদের।
অনেক ধন্যবাদ আমির ভাই। He's a great producer. I tell you a very interesting anecdote. During the press meet of my film Boatman of Padma, Padma Nodir Maji, the film has a huge canvas, so many schedules, expensive film. It was a kind of a co-production between Government of West Bengal and Habib's company. Some press people asked Habib Bhai, you made a film, such a big budget film, but it's not a typical commercial film. Do you will be able to recover the money? He said, do you know about what is about Sotheby's auction or some big art dealers auction in New York or in London, where they buy a small piece of canvas for 6.6 by 6 canvas for few $1 million. I bought a 2.5 hour films with my money, so that's enough. 2.5 hours painting with my money, that's enough. That is Habibur Rahman Khan. Now, Madhuja, why did you say something? You know ekti nodir naam very well.
I work.
Yeah, you worked, of course. Yeah.
থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ গৌতমদা। প্রথমে একটু বাংলায় বলি, কারণ হাবিব ভাই এখানে আছেন। যখন একটি নদীর নাম শুটিং শুরু হয়, আমরা যখন বাংলাদেশে গিয়েছিলাম, সেই সময় আমি তখন ছাত্রী ফার্স্ট ইয়ারে, এবং আমি অনুপকে অ্যাসিস্ট করি, এবং পরবর্তী সময় আই হ্যাভ বিন ক্রেডিটেড অ্যাজ দ্য কস্টিউম ডিজাইনার, বাট I also did all the errands যা অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট ডিরেক্টরদের করতে হয়। তো আমার কাছে ওটা একটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ শেখার জায়গা ছিল, কারণ ওটা আমি তখন ছাত্রী, এবং to be able to go to these places where Ghodok shot and to see the people who worked in his film it was like I literally felt I was inside Ghodok's film for that moment. কিন্তু আমরা তখন যেহেতু বাংলাদেশে ওই সময় মানে প্রোডাকশনে মেয়েরা ছিল না, এবং আমরা হাবিব ভাইয়ের বাড়িতেই ছিলাম, আমি অ্যাক্টরদের সঙ্গে ছিলাম, কারণ আমি আই ওয়াজ দ্য অনলি ওম্যান ইন দ্য গ্রুপ। সো আমার অনেক স্মৃতি আছে, এবং হাবিব ভাইকে ধন্যবাদ। এবং অ্যাজ এ স্টুডেন্ট আই কেপ্ট ওয়ান্ডারিং দ্যাট দিস পারসন who has produced Pita is producing our film. It was like a magic, the idea that it is the same person, because for us students it was a myth যে হাবিবুর রহমান পিতা প্রডিউস করেছিলেন, এবং সেখানে যাওয়া, ওনাকে মিট করা এবং ওনার সঙ্গে ওনার বাড়িতে থাকা। কিন্তু আমি ঋত্বিক ঘটক নিয়ে এতগুলো কথা বললো, আমি একটু একটি নদীর নাম নিয়ে বলতে চাই। So I started working as an assistant director, and I just joined a few weeks before the shooting began. So somehow the person who was supposed to do the costume, as it happens in our production, this person vanished. So Anup said, "Can you do the costume?" So I said yes, because I couldn't say no, in the sense that as an assistant director, if you are told to do something, you don't say no. Like you are supposed to say yes. So then we sat with, and so Anup had really an amazing script. And before I talk about the film, there's one thing that Anup spoke about, that he's a Punjabi, and why would he then make a Bangla film? And then I ended up writing Kissa with him, and I was asked, it's a Punjabi film, how does a Bengali write? So I keep saying that because Madan Gopal Singh wrote ekti nodir naam, so it's a revenge. So that aside, so Anup at that time, Anup, of course, had a very elaborate script, and even more elaborate a color palette. There were these designs, and it was, and he told me something I distinctly remember, that Ghodok made films in black and white, and we are making a color film. So these are the colors. Now, he wanted sarees in specific colors, and I remember, like, he would say that a rust red saree with a border which is like a wine color. There are no sarees like that. By the time we were shooting, and especially before the pujas and around that time, the sarees had become with all zari, and then the quality, that textile quality had changed. So we literally ended up buying cloth, dyeing and printing and making sarees. And it was incredibly difficult, because by the time Durga Puja was there, and all shops were closed, and I literally, so one thing I learned by assisting is that you have to request people like your life depends on it and you have to play and people like to help. So people, they help. They opened up shops and we could actually dye, print, and so on. So when I brought all the saris, and the first day of shooting had begun, and the saris were not required in that. It was just sort of for the Gaja Park sequence attached. So I had this totally packets of wet saris because they have been given because they wanted to close, and these were this wet material, whole lot of plastic bag when I came. So in fact I was carrying this, and when I took the taxi and I said, Gaja Park jabo. He looked at me like, Bacha mein Gaja Park can jabe. So I said, shooting.
Right, because there was a sequence in Jukti Taptu Gakbo and
Yes.
Raja Park.
Yes, so we shot, but
With Ritikda and Upalda.
yes, so something very interesting about also in shooting in Bangladesh, and here is the kind of locations that we sought. And that was extremely interesting because the film is really true to that. When the screening was happening, and now I teach in Jalapur University, so my students were there. Yesterday I was telling them that the Podda lecture, this is actually, we were shooting in the location and with great difficulty because shooting is never easy, and shooting this film was even more difficult because of the actors that we were dealing with, Shukriya Chaudhuri, Avanish Banerjee. In fact, after Komal Gandhar, we do not actually see him. And should I tell the story about this? The story of that he was dead, and then we tried to find him. It is actually a very interesting story of what this film means. So
We went into oblivion.
yeah, so when we had almost begun shooting, and like I said that I had just joined a few weeks before, so I said, Anup, there is no, like, where is Avanish? If you have seen Komal Gandhar, you would want Rigu to be in the film. So Anup said the production people said that he has died. So then I again go and ask Niki Maharaj, yeah, he's dead. So, but there is an address, you can go and ask whether he is there. So I go, and thankfully we speak in Bangla, so I find a word of asking. So I say, Niki achen, which means both, as is he around? So it means both. So said, yeah, he is Bazar korte gechen, he is around. So the industry had declared him dead for a few years. So we really, Anup Films brings back that Rigu that we have seen in Komal Gandhar. Again, when we were actually dubbing, and towards the end, again they said that he has died. So this is twice we found him and he has dubbed for us. So, and you cannot imagine how excited, Rigu, Komal Gandhar, তার বাড়িতে যাচ্ছি, he may be alive. It's like a thriller for me, right? As a young student. And then I come down, Anup, he's alive, we can use him in the film. The script is changed. So Anup's dedication in that was amazing. In the one is, he is making a film on Ritik Gandhar, but he is also making his own film. That is really important. If you watch the film, it's not like a tribute to Baba. It's Anup Singh's style that goes into Pidash, that goes into Song of Scorpions. You can see what it means, the kind of mentor Bharat may have been in the sort of FTI canon. And of course, there are many stories, but maybe Orgula will have more.
Yeah, why not? I'll go.
I don't have too many stories because I'm a backroom boy. I'm an editor. But the thing is that Anup and I go a long way back. We are batchmates at FTII, Pune. So I know Anup's kind of film. So when Anup gave me a call to say that he wants me to edit his film, I was overjoyed. Because I knew this is a once in a lifetime chance to edit a film like this, and I would never get a chance like that. And the
Yes, it has remained the same way. So when people ask me, are you an art film editor? I said that I have only edited one art film. I have not edited anything like that again. It was a wonderful experience working with Anup because when I sat with him for the edit, he used to be there every day. We used to travel to the. We edited it in Bombay, and when I used to travel with him for the edit, I was actually quite taken aback by the kind of rushes I saw. It was something which I had not seen before, nor I have kind of seen after. It's a very unique kind of rushes that I was watching. And it had got all kinds of Anoop's kind of sensibilities weaved into it. It's a film on Ghatak, it's a film about Ghatak, it's a film around Ghatak, it's a film that celebrates Ghatak, it's a film that celebrates all the characters of Ghatak. So it's a very complex film. But the fact is that he made it look very simple out there. His camera movements were languid, and we kind of developed an editing pattern which was born out of the rushes. There was no preconceived notion about how we should edit. The editing kind of evolved as we kind of went along watching the rushes, and that's what kind of really excited me. And I was excited because it took me back to my student days when I would be really thrilled by watching Ghatak's films, and those kinds of memories kind of came strongly back to me. And I'm still thankful that Anup gave me a call to edit that film. Thank you, Anup.
I think we have to conclude. And if you have any question,
Anup has something to say.